This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. One of the most important things for developing football team like the Cleveland Browns, especially on offense, but overall, is to establish a identity. If you look at everywhere where culture is set and teams improve from not being so good to being much better in the future, you're going to find a common thread. These are places where they focused on an identity first. A perfect example is the Detroit Lions, who focused on their new identity, right? Running the football and becoming just a very tough football team. And having their team be kind of based in those principles. Think about it even beyond the lens of football or just general sports team building. Think about it in your personal life. Many of you have struggled to grow, and then you found some kind of identity you can associate with, whether that be you join a fraternity or you go to college and you meet some people who have different interests, and then you get into that. You find your identity, and that creates the mold for you to fill in the rest of your personality with, right? Like, you need to have some kind of identity if you want to grow, if you're the Cleveland Browns as a football team, because that's going to create the mold for what we look for when it comes to developing players and players who are going to make sense for what the Cleveland Browns want to do. So what do we know about this identity that the Cleveland Browns should be looking to create? What do we know about what they're going for, what they're looking for? Well, if you look at their hires, right, they hired Todd Monken, and then Todd Monken brings in to help him run the offense Travis Swayze, who is a run game coordinator originally, right, a guy who comes from a running back background. So on the offensive side of the ball, I think it's fair to assume, based on how Todd Monken has operated his offense and based on how he is filling out his staff, they want to have a legit focus on the run game. They want to be a run-first football team. If we look at the other side, what did they focus on for their defensive coordinator hire? They know that Myles Garrett and that front seven is going to be really good, but they want to become more complex, more diverse with what they could do with their secondary players and what they can ask those guys to do. They brought in a passing game coordinator to run the defense. So you can see right there that there's a little bit of that identity of like, hey, we want to be a secondary that gets more turnovers, more interceptions. I think that's where they want to make a difference at. So you look at both of those moves and what they're looking for, and we could kind of get a rough draft of a team that wants to become more dangerous in the secondary. So we want to make you scared to throw the football. And more dangerous in the run game, because if you do turn the ball over, we're going to dominate time of possession. We're going to go on long drives, and we're going to get points consistently. So that's the focus of this mock draft exercise. We're going to have a list of free agents that I think fit the mold of this identity. But what I want to do by the end of this mock draft is say to myself, the Browns have an identity that they are clearly building towards. That identity should be a smash mouth, run first football team with a secondary that gives you a ton of versatility and a ton of flexibility and opportunity to get interceptions. So that's what we're going to focus on today. But before I do that, I got to thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Hey, have you heard of the Sleeper app? It is a place where you can go to play fantasy football. It's also a place you can go to do picks. You can put your knowledge on the line, make some picks, and see who knows ball the most, and maybe even, be rewarded for your knowledge. Go on the Sleeper app, make sure you sign up using the promo code WORSTTAKE, and you'll get a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code WORSTTAKE. Make sure you check out the Sleeper app. All right, so with the free agency, let's get this one out the way quickly. We're going to sign veteran guard Kevin Zeitler back to Cleveland to play right guard. Not only is he familiar with the Cleveland Browns, he's also very familiar. I think he even was there overlap with George Warhop? I don't think so. I think it was 3 years after that. But there's overlap with him in Cleveland. There's overlap with him in Baltimore with Monken, and I think under Monken, he had one of his best years of his career. So I think that would be a pretty easy move. Veteran guy, 35 years old, just be there to fill in the spot for a year while you develop somebody behind him, but he'd be your starting right guard. Then you got Tyler Linderbaum, who you can plug in at center. That would be your big free agency signing. Then you go after somebody like a Deebo Samuels, right? You're going to try to be more of a smash mouth team. You want guys who can get some yak, be physical in run blocking. Deebo Samuel fits the mold of that. You're going to get some you're going to fill out your tight end room with Charlie Kolar and Pat Ricard. Charlie Kolar will kind of serve as your second tight end. Pat Ricard will kind of serve as your blocking guy, plus a bunch of different roles along the defensive line. Devin Bush, you would bring him back, and then you would sign Marcus Mariota to be your quarterback. Not my favorite option in the world, but again, the options aren't great. Again, I say this when it comes to the Browns quarterback situation this offseason, often, but it's true. We are shopping at the clearance rack at Marshall's for quarterbacks right now. Those are the options. Like, we don't have luxury available to us. You want to point out every flaw in Marcus Mariota's game? Feel free to. I point it out too. I'm not the biggest fan of Marcus Mariota, but the truth is, every quarterback that could start games for the Cleveland Browns is going to have a laundry list of things that you don't like about him, whether it's Shedeur Sanders, whether it's Dylan Gabriel, whether it's Marcus Mariota, whether it's Malik Willis, whether it's Kyler Murray. It doesn't matter who it is. Every name, Russell Wilson, you could throw that name in there, right? Every name you could think of that could play quarterback for the Cleveland Browns realistically next year, you're going to have stuff that you don't like about them. Because if they were quarterbacks who had a lot of stuff that you didn't like or did like about them and not a lot of stuff that you didn't like about them, they wouldn't be available. We are at the point where we got to shop where we got to shop. You want to bring in Anthony Richardson? Might be some upside, might be some downside. There is no guy that you can bring in who's going to be perfect. It's all down to preference. Do you prefer Marcus Mariota or do you prefer Anthony Richardson? None of this is absolute. You could throw in whatever name at quarterback you want to throw in there. It's just as valid as Marcus Mariota and vice versa, right? So, again, if you feel the need to crash out because I said Marcus Mariota, really ask yourself who's that much better than Marcus Mariota out there. Like, really. Like, I'm not a big fan of Marcus Mariota being the quarterback next year either, but like, hey, man, he's about as good as you could probably get. Like, you could go Kyler Murray. His track record's better, but his injury history's worse. You could go with Anthony Richardson, who's athletically a lot better, but, his track record's not as good as Marcus Mariota's, and then also has a history of injury there that's not insignificant. Again, man, we're at the clearance rack. We got to stop acting like we're going to find somebody to play quarterback this year that we aren't going to have massive questions about. It just is what it is. We are not at this place where we could just turn up our nose at quarterback options. So that's free agency, okay? You get a starting guard in Kevin Zeitler for a year. Tyler Linderbaum's going to be your center of the future. You get somebody to hold down the fort for a couple of years in Deebo Samuel at wide receiver, Charlie Kolar at tight end, Pat Ricard as your other tight end / fullback, Devin Bush, and then Marcus Mariota. Is it the flashiest free agency of all time? No. But does it help you establish your identity as a smash mouth team? I think so. So that's a good start. Now we'll do some draft picks to add into it and see what we have at the end of the day. Browns did in free agency, and seeing how that's going to color how we're going to try to fill out this identity that we're trying to build in Cleveland on offense and on defense. So we're going to do a 7-round mock on Pro Football Focus, and we're going to get right into it. So, boom.
First 5 picks of this draft: Fernando Mendoza, Ruben Maine goes number 2, Jeremiah Love, running back, goes number 3, David Bailey 4, Arvell Reese 5. There are some interesting things that pop up here, right? Caleb Downs available, so maybe there's a trade that you can consider here. Sonny Styles, Carnell Tate, Makai Lemon also available there. The teams that are willing to trade back with you, right? We talked about this before. If you're looking for wide receiver or just a trade back in general, I think the range from 7 to 13 probably makes the most sense. Miami doesn't really have much they can offer you as far as this year goes because their next pick is 42.75, so they don't have any extra picks to throw in there. So yeah, you could get an extra second if you deal with Miami here. Maybe even get a conditional third if you're willing to throw in maybe like that Cincinnati 7th. Well, not Cincinnati 7th, but that Cincinnati 5th in there. And that could get a deal done. If I'm looking at the board, though, and I'm Cleveland, if Mao Noah is there, I think that's probably going to be the pick for them. He might be able to be a tackle at 6'6", 315 pounds. Good athlete. And again, we're talking about establishing an identity, establishing a tone. Nobody's going to help you in this draft establish a tone more than Francis Mauigoa on the offensive line. Whether you play him at tackle, whether you play him at guard, he's going to be physical at both positions. He might be able to be your tackle of the future. And if he doesn't work out at tackle, much like Will Campbell, you can always kick him in the guard if he struggles. So we're going to go pick 6 here. We're just going to stay. The move up to 11 there is attractive, but I think what's more attractive is building that identity for the Browns. So we're going to go Mauigoa, pick 6, and then we're going to move forward to pick 24. So right now in free agency, we handled right guard, center. We got left tackle in Mauigoa with our first pick. And then now we're sitting here at pick 24. So we got left tackle, right guard, center. So we got 3 of the 5 positions handled. You can keep DeJuan Jones in there as a placeholder. There are some guys you would consider for tackle here. If you wanted to get a right tackle, you could go Monroe Freed, who is a really strong pass blocker, but, sometimes you worry about power with him. Caden Proctor, you don't worry as much about power with him, but you do worry if he's light enough to be at guard. Played about 370 last year. So really the question is hey, can Caden Proctor, can he play tackle in the NFL? What weight does he come in at the combine? If Caden Proctor comes in 325, that'd be crazy, 325. But somewhere like 340, you might be more inclined to lean towards a Caden Proctor. I know everybody's out on Alabama tackles, but this isn't a Saban tackle. That stigma exists for Nick Saban tackles, not Alabama tackles. He's 20.7 years old, so under 21 years old at the time of drafting him. Good athlete, physical guy. Again, another guy who's going to set a tone for you physically. Can play tackle, could play guard, really good athlete. He's somebody you would definitely consider here at 25. Caleb Lomu, I think he makes sense if you're just looking for somebody who could pass protect. But again, we're talking about the team's identity being heavily focused on that ability to run the football. Caden Proctor's probably the best guy you can get here. The question is, what's the difference between the guys you can get later in the draft versus Caden Proctor, right? So we'll continue to look around here. Let's see at wide receiver if there's anything that makes sense here. All right, so again, we're trying to build the identity of the run game. We feel like in that conversation we have tight end covered. I think tight ends covered, running backs covered. So really all we're focusing in on is this offensive line conversation. We have a couple positions we need to fill out, left guard and right tackle. So you could go Caden Proctor at right tackle. He could be a guard as well. I do believe he played on the left side at Alabama. Yeah, exclusively on the left side at Alabama. Was a left tackle, but I don't think flipping a guy early in his career is the worst thing in the world. Then you got a guy like Vega Ione, who has played some right guard and some left guard. If you look at his alignment charts, right, left guard, left guard, left guard, a little bit of right guard, a little bit of right guard. Here, I think this is really what the choice comes down to in this specific scenario when you're talking about building out your run game. You got a physical tone setter on the left side of the ball in Maonoa. You're going to put Zeitler on the right side of that line, and you have Tyler Linderbaum that you could put at the center position here. I think if it comes down to Vega and Caden Proctor, it's going to be an unpopular decision because a lot of people are going to see Caden Proctor and think of Jedrick Wills and get PTSD. But let's try not the helmet scout here, right? We're talking about somebody who's 6'7", who was able to take running back snaps at 366 pounds, who's very physical. And the biggest problem for him is he needs to be a little bit lighter, right? But the athletic ability is there. He can move well and hit well in space, and he's very, very physical, right? Like, it's not a DeJuan Jones situation where DeJuan's never hit well in contact in space. He's done that before at a high level, right? If you look at how he's graded out in these like different sets here, you're looking at his zone grade, his ability to get out and go, and his gap grade. Let's look at Vega Ione's gap grade. I mean, these are pretty similar players here, except for one can give you some potential at right tackle, and then you could flip on the guard if something goes wrong. So I'm going to get Caden Proctor here. I don't think the internet's going to love this pick, but I'm going to be okay with it. So right tackle, we're going to go Caden Proctor. I know, but it makes the most sense here to me if you're talking about building out an identity as a run-first football team. So all of a sudden here, offensive line, complete rebuild. We got at right tackle Proctor. We're going to put Kevin Zeitler at right guard, Tyler Linderbaum at center. We have a hole at left guard, and then we have left tackle where we're going to put Francis Maonoa. So far, we've really kind of tackled a lot of what we want to tackle with the offensive line. We'll probably put them on a back burner as far as the top, as far as drafting them goes, probably until pick 107. There are some guys here that you want to keep an eye on. I think Kalen Rutledge is the main guy I want to keep an eye on if he's there at 107. Or maybe if like I'm sitting around like 90, I might consider using some extra picks to move up and get Kalen Rutledge there because I do think he could start at guard. Again, another guy who's super physical, a tone setter, a guy who can, change the identity of this offensive line and the identity of this football team. So there's that. Probably not going to touch wide receiver here at pick 39. I know some people really want the Browns to go wide receiver here. Probably not going to touch it, right? Omar Cooper, Jeremy Bernard, Elijah Surratt. If we're going to be really run focused, I don't think those are the type of wide receivers you go after. Let's see here. Let's see what's available at safety. Got some interesting picks available at safety. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, who I believe was he's more of a box safety. So 401 snaps in the box, 33 in slot, 13 at corner. Not really what the Browns are looking for. If you're looking for what the Browns need, they need a deep safety. He's not really fitting that build there. You got Thyman, who is a little bit more of a deep safety, played it primarily in 2024 and 2023, did move down to the box, though, this year. I think if you're looking for a free safety, there's two guys that you're going to be focused on. There's A.J. Halsey, who is primarily been a free safety his entire career, a ball hawk at that. If we look at where's his interceptions? They got everything but his interceptions here. It's crazy. Okay, 3 interceptions this last year, 5 forced incompletions from this free safety position. Really good ball hawk, I think, coming out of LSU. And then you have Genesis Smith, who is a freak of an athlete, right? I think he's going to run pretty good at the combine. 6'2", 204, junior, young guy, fits the mold of what Andrew Berry usually drafts here, right? If we're looking for his interceptions, had one interception this year. And if you look at his snap alignment, primarily a free safety throughout his career. Now, you're going to look at this Pro Football Focus board. He's at 100 right now. That's probably going to change after the combine. We're probably talking about somebody who's going to go in the second round here. The same as A.J. Holsey, who's probably going to go in the second round if he has the kind of combine that people are expecting him to have. So that's the conversation there, right? I think you can get Holsey here at 39. I do wonder if you can wait and get Genesis Smith at 70, maybe, but it's a bit risky. In this simulator, you'll be able to get Genesis Smith at 70, no problem. But I don't know if that's going to happen in real life. There is Cincinnati wanting to trade up with you in this scenario. We'll see what they offer to make this worthwhile. But let's see. Let's play it out, right? Because I don't mind moving back a couple spots here, given that I kind of want to go safety. Are they willing to give me 72? They're not. 110. They're willing to give me 110. 110 would help me move up from 107 later on if I wanted to move up to 107. But I kind of want to see if I can get 72 because 72 would be a lot more interesting to me. So I'll be willing to give you 44, 139. Okay, they're not going to move on 72. I understand it. 110. I kind of want something more than just 110 here to move back 3 spots. But I guess that's a lot to move back just 3 spots. Can I get a 6 next year? We get a 5th next year. All right, let's see if they take this. If they do, we'll take it. They took it. Cool. We'll move back to 41. They got Halsey here. All right, so Genesis Smith it is later on. We're probably going to go Genesis Smith at 70. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Halsey would have probably been a pick there, but I'm fine with getting the extra pick and maybe securing a couple of extra guys that I want. Quarterback-wise, we know that Trinidad Chambliss is not going to be in this class anymore, so he's not really there to consider. And then after that, it's not really much there. Wide receiver-wise, Omar Cooper, who I think is the more interesting of the two Indiana guys. He got more separation. Definitely both of these guys had their issues catching the football, and both of them heavily benefited from playing with the best quarterback in college football. So, I'm a little wary on the Indiana wide receivers, more so than I thought I would be. Jeremy Bernard, he just doesn't feel like somebody you want to go with at 41. Maybe I am wrong on that one, but I think I'm okay not going there. Probably going to stay away from the offensive line for a little bit. Let's look at corners. There's Keontae Scott, who's interesting. D'Angelo Pons, who's very interesting here. I think I could go Pons at 41. I really wouldn't mind. Twitter would be pissed, but I really wouldn't mind going Pons or Keontae Scott here at 21. If you look at Pons, just like what does separate him is the kind of work that he did in some of the bigger games against the Big Ten, and his playmaking ability, I think, is really what stands out with him. Had 2 interceptions this year, always getting a hand on the ball with 7 career interceptions. The issue with Pons is he's small. 5'9", 173. Really, really small. Good football player, but really, really small. Keontae Scott, more that prototypical mold. A little bit older, right? Redshirt senior, but 6 foot, 194. Good football player. Had a good game versus Ohio State. Didn't really play so well the next 2 games, but still a solid player. Good man coverage grade, good run defense grade. So, take that for whatever you care about when it comes to Pro Football Focus. He's the guy D'Angelo Pons, the guy you just saw make the most plays here. So, Pons is definitely an option here at 41 for me. If If I'm trying to build a versatile and physical defense, Pons is a bit of a tone setter there. You know, let's look at linebacker. Nothing here at linebacker just yet. So if we're looking at our options, there's nothing really there at wide receiver. Running back, I'm good on running back. Offensive line, we just used our first 2 picks on offensive line. In safety, we're probably okay with Genesis Smith going there, but we're probably not in a rush right now to go and get him. So we'll go Pons. We'll get physical, get us a slot corner, somebody who can also help on rundowns. Hopefully, his ability can scale up with his weight. You get him to like 205, and then you think you probably got something there. So let's go Pons here. Just such a natural playmaker. And then let's get to pick 70. And let's take Genesis Smith. We're also going to slow this down here because I want Keelan Rutledge. And I'm willing to move up to probably about pick 90 to get him. So we're going to slow this draft down a little bit here. We're going to take Genesis Smith here at 70. And then we're going to try to trade up here to get Kalen Rutledge. Let me make sure Rutledge is still available. Yeah. So Genesis Smith. And we're going to watch the board. A little bit of a run there at center. We're fine. Devin Moore. Let's pause here. Let's see what kind of deal we could work out with like San Francisco for that. So 107, and then I can give you 144. I'll give you 139. All right, so I think I could probably get this deal done with that. I think that'll probably get it done. They want some extra picks this year. We can get that done here. So, if this goes about pick 90, let's see. Let's look at who needs what. So they need guard. They might go guard here. There's been a bit of a run here. And then defensive line, defensive interior, guard. Okay, I got to get to 84. Let's see how much it costs to get to 84. So the 84, 107. Yeah, they're not sniffing that price tag. Okay, yeah, 139. 139 and 147 gets it done. How about 205? Just 149 and 147 gets it done. Okay, so if that's what I got to offer, that's what I got. I'll jump in at 84. I don't think I'm going to be able to trade with Jacksonville, given that they just made a move here. So, Skylar Bell. All right, Green Bay's on the clock. Let's make this move. Here. Yeah, okay, 144, 147, and let's get 84. Let's offer the trade. They didn't want to take it. All right, extra fifth. Let's go. All right, so extra fifth for next year. Ended up being enough for them to take the damn pick. All right, cool. Let's go get Rutledge. Okay, so all the offensive line stuff is handled. We still got picks 410, 139, 205, and 248. 205 is probably going to go towards a punter. We could speed this up again. All right, Sam Roush just went, but I'm good at tight end. We can look at wide receiver. Tyreek Sapp's interesting, the edge rusher out of Florida. might be a fun luxury pick that you could go with there. All right. Tight end. Probably good on tight end. Running back. Katron Allen here wouldn't be terrible. We're good on offensive line. We've filled up all 5 positions. Corners, we took 2, right? And we got a safety and a corner. I think we're good there. And yeah, Bud Clark's there. I like Bud Clark a lot, but again, we got Genesis Smith and we got Pond, so probably going to have to say no to Bud Clark at this point. Tyreek Sapp's interesting. If you look at him, he's built like what you want him to look like. 6'2", 274, ripped guy. Super old, though, redshirt senior. Had a great year, according to Pro Football Focus, in 2024. This last season coming up on just 2 sacks and a pass rush win rate of just 8.4%. So, as much as I liked him at the Senior Bowl, I'm probably going to stay away from that. See what we can get for wide receiver here. Kevin Conan, McAllister, Eric Rivers, Jacoby Lane. We might go Bryce Lance, bigger bodied wide receiver, able to get some separation there. You got him jumping up from the FCS, but he's 6'3", 209. Good size there. Contested catch rate, so he was able to go up and get it. Drop rate's a little bit higher than what you wanted. The tough thing with North Dakota State now is that they don't play a FBS school, so you really can't scale. You got to look at how he played against the Dakota schools really to know anything. So South Dakota, good grade. South Dakota State, good grade. Youngstown's defense is terrible. I know because I'm an alumni. Didn't do that well against Illinois State, who got to the championship game down at that level. Let's see. So that's an option here at 110. That wouldn't be the worst in the world. Would be more of a steal at 139. Be a little bit of a reach at 110, but I'm fine with it. Linebacker. Perkins, Tariq York, Aiden Fisher. All the linebackers I would have wanted are gone. Yeah, let's go get the Bryce Lane kid. Let's get the big body kid. Let me see Reggie. Wasn't really impressed with Jacoby Lane at the Senior Bowl either, unfortunately. Yeah, Ted Hurst. I think I'm gonna go Ted Hurst here. I did not know Ted Hurst was still available. They have him ranked incredibly low. I think he's easily a 4th round pick. 6'3", 195. Was going up and getting them like crazy at the Senior Bowl. Low drop percentage. We're going to get Ted Hurst. That's definitely what I'm doing. Okay, cool. Ted Hurst. Easy pick there. My boy Bud Clark just went 139. Let's see what's here. Could go quarterback, but we got enough on the roster that we don't need to draft another quarterback, especially like in this range. Another 5th round quarterback just doesn't really seem that appealing to me. Wide receiver, we're good here. Tight end. Is Katron still available? Nah, Katron gone. That was the one guy I would have wanted. Any tackle prospects? Jude Bowery. Yeah, maybe Bowery. Feel like that's overkill, though, on offensive line. Thaddeus Dixon. I got enough corners. My defensive interior and edge. Let's go front 7, see what we got here. Aiden Fisher, Harold Perkins, Caleb Proctor. Malachi Lawrence is still there. 7 sacks last year. Looked pretty solid at the East-West Shrine game when I got to go see him. We'll go Malachi Lawrence. Let's take Malachi Lawrence here. All right, so we're going to draft the specialist here. We're going to go punter, Ryan Eckley. They don't have anything for him. He's who I hear from the people who do this thing is the one draftable punter in this class. If he's not, whoever people think is draftable, we need a punter. Let's take one at 205. And then we'll round out our draft at pick 248. And goodness gracious. I wonder if my guy from Navy is available, Landon Robinson. Let's get Landon Robinson and call it a day. All right. So again, we came into this wanting to set up a physical football team, right? Now, I'm not going to really give a fuck about what grades PFF gives this based on what their board was, because I don't really give a shit about Pro Football Focus's board. But Francis Maunoa, pick 6, get a tone setter, physical at pick 6. He could play tackle for you. I think in year 1, he'll probably be your left tackle. So Francis Maunoa there. Caden Proctor be your right tackle. He might have to move to guard eventually, depending on what he can keep his weight at. But, you get Caden Proctor there. We move back to 41. We take D'Angelo Pons. We get a physical tone setter on defense. In that secondary, Genesis Smith gives us a ball hawk there in the free safety range. We trade up. We get Kalen Rutledge, who gives us another physical guard that we could play. Ted Hurst, a big-bodied wide receiver who Pro Football Focus is incredibly low on, but I am not. Malachi Lawrence, another good edge rusher that Pro Football Focus is way lower on than they probably should be. Ryan Eckley, whatever the best ranked punter is, you need to get a punter here. And then Landon Robinson. And if we look at this offensively, we can see how this can line up. Let me pull out my whiteboard. All right, so let's pick a play out of this, right? This is the Ravens offensive manual from 2023 by Bobby Peters. He does a great job of putting these together. Let's say, all right, so we're going to run counter strong CT arc. Forgive me, my handwriting is going to be terrible. I cannot make my penmanship significantly better in just the few moments that I would need to in order for this to be very nice and cleanly and prettily drawn out. Excuse me here. Yep. Here. And then we're going to have halfback, quarterback. This looks like a pistol. Look here, and then you got your Z, and you got your Y. All right. So this is the play here. So we'll show the play here real quick on the whiteboard. This is the play. It's a kind of upside down, but you can see it better this way. Here. So given what we've just done in the draft, you would have Francis Maunoa here on the pool. You would have Linderbaum, so TL, on this little kick block here from the center position. You will have Kalen Rutledge right here on this down, and then Kevin Zeitler with Kalen Proctor right there. This looks like you would probably want, what do I have that tight end doing here on arc? So the tight end is pulling up ahead. Probably want that to be Ricard here. But that could be also Fannin or whoever else you want here. With Jerry Jeudy, and then QJ, Quincy Judkins, Marcus Mariota, and on the other Z, you could probably just put either Debo or, honestly, in this one, you would probably want to have Cedric Tillman in because he can block a little bit. So this could be Ricard. This could be Fannin. If you want to kind of play off of this more, make them think it's going to be a pass. So if it's not an obvious pass down, you want that deception, you can keep Fannin in at the Y. and make them think you're going to run a route here. If it's an obvious rundown, put Pat Ricard in because he's just going to be better at that. But here you have, let me make sure it's not. Okay, this is going to be a little funky. Hold on. There it is. All right, so you have Mount Noah. He's going to pull ahead here. You're going to have a center who can kick here on this one, right? So you have a center kicking out, and then you have Ricard here. You can see where the seal could be. You could go straight up this gap here. You could go around, pull with the guard, with the tackle. You can do a number of other things here from this one, but this is just one kind of play where things can be affected. There are plenty of other plays you would run, different formations, different sets, but this is how you can build a more physical run game. You know, everybody that you drafted here, physical, right? Guys that you got in free agency, physical. Tyler Linderbaum, physical. Kevin Zeitler, physical. Francis Mauigoa, physical. Caden Proctor, whatever you think of him, you can't say he's not physical, right? Kalen Rutledge, physical. Got 5 physical dudes on the line of scrimmage. You're going to run the ball a ton. And then you also added that identity to the secondary, right? You bring back Devin Bush. He's physical. D'Angelo Pons, physical. Genesis Smith, he's a free safety. He doesn't need to be super physical, but, you know, he got a little bit in there, right? So Landon Robinson, really physical guy. Malachi Lawrence, really physical guy. You're just creating that identity, that mold of what the Cleveland Browns are going to be, what Cleveland Browns football looks like, and hopefully that informs how you built this team to be more sustainable over the next 10 years. That's my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.